My husband 36M blindsided me 40F and left suddenly. So my husband 36M and I 40F have been together for 5 years, and in those years our marriage has been amazing. Of course, there are moments where we'd bicker, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I was very happily married and thought my marriage was rock solid. We've been no challenging times, but always weathered anything that came our way. This December I really felt like we were in a good place, and there was no drama at all when on December 23rd I noticed a funny tone in my husband's voice when I asked him a question, so I asked him if he was a light, and he tells me he wants to move out. Like what? Just hours before we are cuddling in bed and being playful. And this came out of nowhere, so obviously I had a meltdown because I was so blindsided. So fast forward through Christmas, and I barely make it through the holidays as I need to pretend everything is okay for everyone. I ended up in the hospital multiple times having massive panic attacks and heart issues. I was unable to eat, drink, or sleep. It's like I'm not even in my body anymore, and I'm living someone else's life. I'm not someone who has ever had panic attacks. On December 27th, he moved out into a room he rented in a shared house. I did all I could to treat him with grace and love, as I really didn't want him to go, but decided if he left with me in anger, it would be harder for him to feel like he could come back if he wanted to. I helped him pack and bought and washed his new bedding because I love him, and they am apparently pathetic. We even ended up having amazing sex the day before he left too. He said my being so loving and kind about it made him feel bad, which wasn't my intention. I just love him so much and could see he's got something going on. We've spoken via text and on the phone, and he's indicated to me that it has nothing to do with me and that he loves me. But that due to life stress, he's lost the romantic love for me. He said he'd like to try and date me to see if we can rekindle, but then the next day he sounds less interested. So he's back and forth and all over the place, which makes it even more torturous for me. All of this came about after he came home from a trip in England for a funeral. I thought maybe he had an affair or was having one, but I'm 99.9% sure he isn't. He has a lot of work stress, and my teenage son has been a huge pain in the ass, and I know a lot of the stress comes from him. My husband has always been so loving and amazing with me, a very kind person. But since he told me he was leaving, he's shown me this side of him that is cruel and icy, and I have no idea what to make of it. He's not being himself at all, unless 5 years were an act, and this is who he really is. I am completely devastated and left with no closure or any idea of what is going to happen. He didn't want to separate yet, as he's deciding if he wants me, I guess. He doesn't want to talk for a month so he can sort his thoughts. And that's more torture because, again, I have no answers and no control of the situation. I feel like I'm waiting to be executed, but I don't know when. I'd love some advice. I've managed to give him all of the power. As I was so heartbroken, I was doing all I could to try to bring him home, like writing "Open Me When" letters. Because I was worried about him on his own, because clearly something is up with him. But that probably didn't help and made me look desperate. I'm just a sentimental person, and I go all out for the person I love, and it felt like it was the only way I could fight for him without being there. He's apparently felt like this for months but didn't say a word to me, so we could fix it. He also won't see a marriage counselor. I've shifted from deep grief to a hint of anger now, and I'm feeling frustrated because I don't deserve any of this at all. He could have handled things in a much more compassionate and kind way. Still, I want him back. I meant my wedding vows when I said them. Thoughts?